Nobody's in besides us.
All righty, thank you, sir. Chair will call this meeting to order. The first item on our agenda this morning is to review the budget process for 2025. So Raymond,
Just go overall, Mr. Chairman, just so you know that actually Friday is the day that the budgets are due to be submitted to me.
Yeah.
However, some eager beavers have submitted them early.
good, not me.
So the normal process, and I know you guys know, but I'll just, the budgets come to me, I review them, usually meet with the department heads, and sometimes we negotiate, right, Keith?
A little bit, yeah.
And then I'll present them to you, but the department head always comes to the meeting. So that if myself and the department head have any disagreement about the budget, it's his or her opportunity to share that disagreement. And ultimately, obviously, it's your decision.
Right, but this year, because we're gonna have such an interesting budget year, we're gonna, whatever those issues are, I'd like to have them on a separate.
Well, Keith and I, yeah, we don't, Keith and I don't have a disagreement.
No,
Okay,
no.
all right,
We
okay,
worked it through.
yeah, all right, okay.
So one thing I did want to say in a praise to Keith is that, understanding it's going to be a difficult budget year, we had his assistant in housekeeping and laundry retire in June,
End of June, July,
into
yeah.
July, and he's not going to replace that position. So he's taken more of that on himself.
Okay, do you wanna bring up Keith's first then?
Yes,
Okay.
housekeeping and laundry.
Housekeeping and laundry, okay. So if you guys go through your yellow folder, you're here, we'll have housekeeping and laundry.
So overall, housekeeping and laundry is obviously responsible for all the housekeeping in Riverside, and responsible for residents' personal laundry. Linen is, as you know, is done by the jail. But the personal laundry is done. So Keith, why don't you just maybe give the commissioners an overview of what's been going on in your department?
Laundry,
Laundry and soap.
laundry and sewing, Shell.
Right,
Okay.
Yeah, and there'll be a separate one for housekeeping.
right.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a separate one for housekeeping.
oh, all right.
Yeah.
You're on, Keith.
So in the housekeeping custodial department, we take care of residents' living quarters, cleaning bathrooms, sinks, floors, mattresses, beds, dusting, all along that lines. Custodials take care of everything outside of the residents' living areas, nurses' areas, hallways, public bathrooms, and so on. Everything from cleaning light covers all the way down to washing floors.
Keith, could you highlight for the commissioners what occurs during COVID? What extra work is in your department when COVID hits?
So during COVID, obviously, we all have to wear extra barriers for cleaning and stuff. And then when precautions come off, we have to do what's called a terminal clean, where we go in, we replace all curtains, wash them. We sanitize, disinfect every high touch area from top to bottom. This requires
Staff intensive.
a lot of staff and time to get this done. And this last outbreak, I think we had
43.
43 residents in over 20 rooms that this had to be done in. So
Oh, we're clear now. Well,
Yes.
we have no resident COVID, but this is, we've had 3 outbreaks in 2024. No resident harm. The COVID that they seem to be catching is related to a strain of the original COVID that seems to be less harmful to the resident themselves. So we didn't even have to send a resident to the hospital. However, it was much more contagious than previous COVID. And obviously where you have 2 person in a room and it usually takes 3 days before and 4 person sharing a bathroom. As it takes 3 days before the symptoms are visible, everybody's got it by the time 1 person has it, even though they're all current on their vaccinations.
So talk to me about your assistant position.
You remember his assistant, right?
Right. absolutely.
Sandy.
Cole.
Cole.
You remember?
Uh, are you not replacing the body?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, is that reflected in this, in this present
Yes.
budget? Okay. All right, I get you. I thought she was in charge, she was in housekeeping, was she?
She was the assistant. She did a lot, she did a lot in, laundry. She was the extra body in laundry. We were short, in there for quite some time, so she was a body wherever it was needed to be. Plus she did a lot of the, delegating and whatnot for me, so.
Okay. Gotcha. Now, I'm assuming, Raymond, from our previous discussion, just for the two new commissioners, there's no adjustments in here for what we're doing in terms of negotiation.
Nothing.
Right, nothing. Okay.
It's pretty much, it's
Yeah, it's a zero, but it's all zero.
zero based.
It's zero. Yeah, okay. All right, so questions from my colleagues or?
Yeah, I got a question. Okay, so you just eliminated a position and the budget looks like it stayed the same.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question. I'm trying
Can I
to
see
figure
it,
out what
Keith?
it is.
Do you want the, one you,
I want the one that she was in.
So she shared across the two departments, the cost?
No,
No. I didn't see the adjustment made, that's why I was wondering. I agree with Joe.
if you go to the,
I see the bodies of what they're making. Took 20,000 off, but I don't think it got reflected in the,
In the commissioner's recommendation.
right.
well, we
We'll
had,
check it, we don't have to take the time to do it now, but let's check that and make sure that it's. Well, give the staff some time to make sure that all the bodies are accounted for and add them up.
she would have been included in the 003
Yes.
In the 5170.
yes,
Okay.
Well, we'll just double check it because there shouldn't be anything else in that salary line item that we don't break out. There's no other, there's no longevity payments, that's all broke out and stuff.
Yeah.
We'll check it, we'll just have to double check.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys good with that? All right, Joe, you all right with that then?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have them double check and make sure the math is all right. Okay. Any other questions, Keith or Ray?
Can I see the one?
No, you all set? Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, I just want to say, Keith, that you've done a fabulous job, stepping up to the plate, keeping an old building in very, very, at least healthy condition, from my perspective. Haven't been here a while, so, I think you and the staff have done a great job. I mean, COVID was so challenging on your department, I can't even imagine it. I can't imagine, it's why I run out our sewer lines.
yeah,
But you guys do a fabulous job over there.
Thank you.
And you and the whole staff.
thank you, I'll pass that along.
Yeah, I wish you would, because I personally, and I know my colleagues feel the same way, indebted to you, because we recognize the tough work that had to be done during that period. But we're not out of it yet. I mean, even when you get the new minor, the lesser strain, you still have to go through the same procedures because we're required to. It's not easy. It's not an easy drill. by any stretch of the imagination, you know? But anyway, happy holidays if I don't see you before then.
Thank you. You too.
I think my colleagues are all set. No questions, any further questions?
No, I see that this housekeeping budget, this total 1,035,000 is part of the scratched in, sheet for payroll, which is probably, so that makes it correct.
Yeah, we'll fix that with them. Yeah, that's my scratch.
But,
That's Ray, whenever you see scratching, it's Ray.
right, well, the scratching matches the.
Matches the number.
Matches the number.
Okay, all right.
We'll fix that.
Well, yeah. Yeah, the scratches won't be on the final document.
Right, well, it's good, I mean,
Yeah.
we just.
Yeah.
As long as we know where we're at.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I guess you're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yes, happy holidays, everyone.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Have a good holiday, you and your family. All righty. Now, you wanna pick up some of Diane's stuff?
Yeah, let's pick up some. Oh, Mike Morris?
Mike Morse is here?
Oh, good.
Is he?
Yep. Have him come on
I
in.
don't see his-
Anything to miss morning meeting, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Anything to miss morning meeting, is
Oh, yeah,
that the
you got
idea?
right.
Hi,
Should do
Mike.
this more often.
How you doing?
Hi, I'm good, how you doing?
Good. Counting down the days?
I mean, like 14 work days. This is my last full week.
Is it?
So I get a day off,
That's the old one.
one day off for the rest of the.
But you'll be back, right?
I'll be back.
You'll be back.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wish they really didn't do this. for a month.
Mike Morse,
Good morning.
what is the story with you?
Mike's counting down.
I know, he's retiring.
Yeah, but.
Well, I know, you're gonna be around, I know,
I'll be
I know the
back.
drill.
So here's the plan,
You can't get enough of it. I know.
No, I can't.
here's the plan, Mr. Chairman. Because it reflects in the budget.
Yeah.
You'll see that budget has decreased substantially. So what'll happen is Mike will retire at year's end. And then he'll, as required by the New Hampshire retirement system, he'll be off the month of January. It's a tough month to fish, Mike, I'm sorry.
Yeah, oh, yeah, the lures go further when they hit the surface.
When they hit the ice. And then he'll be back 3 days a week. There is $10,000 in the 229 line, as you can see, a ways down. We have contracted with Rural District,
Yeah, Cornerstone.
Cornerstone,
yeah.
Rural District VNA, who has a therapist that, because there is Medicare requirements for new admissions, Medicare and Medicaid requirements for assessments that need to be done by a physical therapist. So we will use them as we need them for new admissions and other things that that happen. So I've put money in there for that purpose. When Mike comes back, he'll be able to take that over. It'll just be a change around a little bit of his duties. We have 2 physical therapy assistants that we've always had in the budget. They will be remaining with us. So we're gonna try and do the same with a little bit less. And that'll save that
Yeah,
amount of money that you see listed there.
okay.
So, Mike, you think doing it 3 days a week will be adequate or?
Yeah, I think, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I'll do what it takes to get it done and.
Say, it seems people need more
Well, I'm gonna,
PT services these days and.
well, I'm gonna delegate a little bit more,
Yeah.
you know, they might have to pick up some of the
Why?
paperwork stuff, well, not paperwork, but the computer stuff. I mean, there's just so much I need to do just on the computers. It's funny, I was just talking the other day when 20 years ago, I spent most of my day out in the department working with the residents. And now I'm spending most of my day in front of the computer.
You're doing MDS, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and it's just, everything goes towards the MDS, all my assessments, it's just, everything feeds into that.
Yeah.
You know, so the PTAs pretty much carry the bulk of, you know, most of the patient care at this time. But, as far as my supplies and equipment, I did have to request more this year. Prices, just as everybody knows, with everything is skyrocketing. For instance, we had someone come in with a power chair and just the batteries were $800 to fix.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big chunk just right there. Any of these people that come in with power chairs, they develop problems, you know, we get them fixed, you know, when we can, you know.
But at least they're coming in with the chairs.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
if we ever had to buy the chairs, it would be,
Right.
you know, a fortune and, you know, having power chairs requires an assessment. In other words, simply because somebody has a power chair, we can't say, here, you can use your power chair.
Right.
You know, Mike has to ensure that they can do it safely so that they're not running other people over.
Yeah, we've had some bad drivers.
And, but, you know, once they're there and Mike certifies that they're usable, you know, then we need to maintain them.
Yeah.
There's no other options.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's their mobility for some of these people. And it's, you know, it's a great thing.
Mm.
Well, otherwise they wouldn't be able to get around.
At all, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hoya lifts, I know you got a request in for a new Hoya lift.
Mhm.
What are you using now?
But we have Hoya lifts on every unit. Usually, 2 Hoya lifts and 1 or 2 stand lifts. And what I'm doing is I'm just cycling through, replacing old ones, you know, with new ones, and we just try to usually get 1 or 2 new ones every year, because they really get beat on. Maintenance, I mean, does an incredible job keeping these things going, because the motors, you know, get smashed, things get.
Are you gonna be able to do it within your budget? Or it looks
Yeah.
like that's a normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought we were replacing like at least one a year or
Well,
a
it was
5-year cycle.
Within the bond, that bond, that was part of the,
Yeah, part of that was, so that we didn't hit the operating budget
Hit the
every year,
operating,
you know,
right.
and as an effort to keep that under control and because they last some number of years, we tried to spread it out, but.
Right, I mean, we do such a good job getting years out of these things that sometimes we don't have parts anymore, because we've gotten like 8 years out of them and they're only supposed to last 5, or, you know, so that we kind of do that with everything we have, the wheelchairs, the lifts. You know, we just keep ordering parts and fixing them, and we get a lot more life out of them.
The other thing and this isn't a secret, the other thing is, as Hoyer lifts get tired, it's harder for them to pick up some of our heavier people.
Heavier people.
And we are getting, a lot more people, you know, that are 500 pounds, 400 pounds. I mean, we work with them in terms of, managing their diets, but as you know, it's their choice. You know, we can't force them.
Right.
You know, in terms of what they can eat and can't eat. We can make recommendations, we can try and negotiate, we can try and have reasonable approaches with them. And some of the people are just confused, and it wouldn't matter, you know, you can't educate them to the point of, managing their weight. And so when we have some, as the Hoyer lifts tend to get tired, we tend to move them around onto units where, we have people whose weight's more manageable. The other thing is, of course, some of in this building, there's some residents that we can't really admit because they can't fit through the doorways.
Right.
There's no, and we don't, so.
Physically can't get in the building.
Or we can't put too many of the heavier people on any one unit, because sometimes it takes 3 staff or 4 staff just to provide care to one person at one time. And we don't have that kind of staff on, you
Right.
know, because that would leave like the rest of the unit
Yeah.
on staff.
On staff.
And we can't do that, so, you know, we try and, ask other nursing homes to, do that, but they don't take them, so one of the biggest needs probably in the hospitals are the management of, you know, the heavier resident.
How many do you have, say over 500?
Well, we probably manage, there's probably have 3, 4, or 5 that are over between 400 and 500 pounds. Sometimes we have
We had one time, remember, 700?
well, there was one that they wanted
But
us
we
to
couldn't-
admit, but
we
we
couldn't do
couldn't pick them up.
Yeah, remember? I
You-
remember, we couldn't pick them up.
We couldn't pick him up, so, you know, if he should fall, it was a gentleman
Yeah,
in this
couldn't
case.
Pick them up.
Even our Hoyer lifts couldn't pick him up. I mean, there's, you know, they have a maximum of around 600 pounds
Right,
and we just couldn't pick him up. So, you know, we worked with him in the community
I remember
to
that.
try and, you know, get his
His
weight
weight
under
down.
control.
We just like the ring things, that's all.
But it didn't work.
We just wanted some more ring things.
yeah, I remember.
It didn't work out, yeah. But you guys did a great job in trying to help them.
Well, I mean, we're the only facility that'll take, you know, people of that size. You know, the private homes won't, because invariably, you know, they're on Medicaid, so,
Yeah, they're not gonna,
you know,
they'll lose money on them, so much money.
well, they don't have the staff to do it.
Yeah.
You know, they're in a situation of trying to make the most money from the people they take, you know, because that's how they stay in business.
Yeah.
You know, we have the ability to have a county subsidy for, that's why I only have one private pay person.
We have a sign right now who's doing, who are repairing the wheelchairs. You have,
Is there any one specific guy in
specific
maintenance?
guy? No,
Nah, I mean,
they spreading it out,
they spread it out and,
Yeah.
you know, some are better than others and
right?
Elena, who works in my department.
Yeah.
She actually does a lot of repair herself.
Hmm.
She actually does a really good job,
She's a good employee.
so, but yeah, I mean, it gets done. And then we contract, well, we don't contract, we work with a couple of medical equipment companies. One in Rochester, Lakeside, and one in Concord. Unfortunately, they're in high demand, so you don't always get the quickest responses, but they can troubleshoot with different wheelchairs, especially the power wheelchairs. One of my companies, like the gentleman I worked with for years, and you know, used to almost sell things to cost, had a good relationship with him, and he retired.
Yes.
But
Well, the other thing is that the last batteries that we needed, because I heard about it every day. It took like almost 3 weeks for it to come in, you
Yeah.
know, after we ordered it,
The
they're
supply
just,
chain.
the supply chain, we just couldn't get it.
Sean knows all about that.
Yeah, we just couldn't get it in. And, you know, the residents don't understand that, you know, they
Right.
think you can go to Walmart
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just grab a battery, you know, it's.
we try to go to Batteries Plus.
It doesn't work, so, but we managed to, you know, to get it done, and that's actually, I guess I can't say who that was,
Yeah,
so I'll just leave that blank.
Yeah.
But you guys, the delegation knows who it was.
All right. Well, you guys have any questions over?
So we're gonna give it our best shot with the staffing, we've talked about it, we've met about it,
Right.
there is some little changes that we're gonna make in the MDS department.
Yeah.
And the other good thing is, our occupational therapist can also help cover. Particularly for those 3 weeks in January.
Yeah, cause he's gonna be out, he has to be out for 30.
Well, again, we do have that contract.
Oh, yeah, the contract.
I
Yeah, I got it.
Mike negotiated that contract and we're meeting with that person next week,
2 weeks.
2 weeks. just to go over the details, but also our occupational therapist can cover some of the things. That'll be helpful, mostly, in relation to falls. If we have a fall, every fall there's an assessment.
Mhm.
Even if there's no injury to the resident, and she can help us with the fall assessments. So that's one thing we won't need somebody like Mike to do, so we.
Yeah. And we got a little bit of a discount on the contract because I worked there 20-something years before I came here. And this same person was in charge.
You're always trying to save us money, Mike.
I'm trying, I
understand
Have
that.
you- How many years have you?
don't know, 22.
22, yeah. I'm gonna say at least 20.
I was 40 when I came here.
Yeah.
We won't do the math.
Well, we
Yeah.
both had a lot more hair back then, Mike, you know?
Yeah, at least a little bit.
Yeah.
That's all right, I don't have to buy combs anymore.
All right, well, any other questions, Mike?
Yeah, I got one more,
Yeah.
question, how many, are you tracking the age? In other words, he's retiring, how many more people are right behind him that we're gonna have to deal with?
We got quite a few. There's quite a few.
Are we
You,
tracking that?
you got at least a couple in this room, probably.
There's a lot. There's a lot of them.
Let me just tell you crystal clear, Commissioner Watson, a couple of years ago a few years ago now, on my performance evaluation, highlighted, the fact of ensuring that we have people in place, for when succession plan. That was one of our biggest things. And, you have people like me, you have, and the biggest person that is going to be, in my opinion, the most difficult to replace is that lady.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you'll say no, because that's
No,
what you
That's
do,
absolutely accurate.
but,
I mean, yourself, I can name,
Your
I
knowledge
can
is
name 8
amazing.
or 10 people.
well,
Yeah.
If they left, we're not gonna be in
Yeah.
good shape here.
No.
Because we don't have, what people don't understand, and this is for you, Joe, for you particularly, is that 10 years ago or 12 years ago, we went through the Tea Party revolution. We gutted this operation, okay? There's no backup. It doesn't exist. Everybody sits back and they think, oh, okay, I get elected now, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna do this. The backup that we had is, we've been at this a long time. We got rid of all the backup. There is no backup. So when you lose key people, okay, even for vacation time, that they're entitled to take at least 1 or 2 weeks a year, most of them are entitled to more than that under our present contracts, there's no one there to back them up. It just, the backup just doesn't exist. Now we're doing it, we're doing it. We just got done doing it with housekeeping. We got rid of the assistant, okay, position, right? We're not gonna replace the body. Well, when you do that, you have the janitor come in I mean, you just don't have it. It doesn't exist.
Well, it's a problem at the state too.
Yeah, it just doesn't exist, okay? We got rid of them all. Slowly, actually, it wasn't slowly the first time around because of you. We won that election by 1 vote. But as a result of all that, there's just limited backup. And we've got 8 or 10 people that were gonna be in tough shape. I mean, when we lost Velarde, we were lucky we had Emily that had been around a few years. That was a big hit that we were concerned about when we lost Velarde.
well, we took a pretty good hit in the sheriff's department between now.
Now we're taking a huge hit down there. Right.
Because we've lost the two highest in the chain of command. They're both retired. They're both gone.
And so that creates.
But at least, Joe was kind enough to stay,
Right.
until,
Right.
yeah. And then we had a captain that we plugged in when Joe went out.
When,
Joe turns, when he turned 70, he had to step down, but also, of course, he didn't know at the time, but his wife took him on a cruise for his 70th birthday, so. A captain, would work with me, if they had issues that came up during that, during that that period of time, so during that 2 week period, so. But fortunately, it was a quiet time. I only got one or two calls and, it was quiet, but I think what people don't understand is that there's not, I think Chris and I talk off hours 5 times a week, maybe
Sure.
more.
Sure.
Sometimes 3 and 4 times in one night.
Yep.
That's that, and I bother poor Diane on her vacations. I end up calling her if there, some information. It's just part of the deal. It's just what happens. And county attorney, few times a month, I'll have to call her after, on off hours but the nursing home, forget it. And that's every day and every night.
Every night, right?
Yeah.
We tried to call Mike, but Mike's never around. 'Cause he's too busy.
No, he's fishing.
I'm trying to save money, so I turn off my work phone.
Yeah.
Do what I can.
Yeah. But that bigger question about what we have for retirees, come on, we can talk about.
No, it's a really good,
I mean, it's
I
accurate.
think we're in a reasonably good position at the nursing home. When, our previous person left and we brought Dee Brown back,
Yeah.
Dee's a licensed administrator, so we have a licensed administrator on board. I'm obviously to be up to the commissioners, whether, how you wanna manage that, when I leave, if you want, to go out. I'll tell you, I covered Rockingham this summer, while they looked for their administrator.
And we had three applicants.
Oh, well, they had a lot of applicants, but only 3 that were worth to be interviewed.
Yeah.
And then 2 of the 3 dropped out.
Dropped out, right,
So they were left with 1. And frankly, they pay a lot more than we do.
right.
So I think you're,
Yeah, we're gonna have, there's gonna be a day of reckoning.
there'll be a day of reckoning when that,
When all that takes place, there's gonna be a big day of reckoning around here. And it ain't gonna happen because you're gonna lose so much institutional knowledge that,
I think,
you
I feel like that's the biggest thing is the institutional knowledge and the relationships that are established with the agencies that you work with.
right?
Like a lot of time, I've seen it where, Diane and the auditors, when they come in, like they know the way in which you work and they know that they can find whatever it is that they need to find. And if they can't seem to find it within a minute and a half, you have all the information that they have. Like I've heard how successful it's been and, the institutional knowledge that comes with someone who's helped manage the county for 38 years is.
and it's a relationship too with the US Marshals and with ICE,
Right.
That Chris kind of maintains on his own. That is, that's obviously a key thing when it brings in $8 million in revenue. So I think, Chris is younger than we are, but is in a different retirement system. So, I
Have the time and service right now.
yeah, Chris couldn't go now.
Yeah.
And get his full retirement, but fortunately, I think, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn. No, I think, I think he and I work together pretty well.
Yeah.
And I think that's perhaps one of the reasons why he hangs around.
Well, Strafford County has had some stability for a very, very long time, and that stability is, you're gonna be threatened as we start losing key people. It's just the nature of it. There's nothing we can, we can prepare for some of it, but you can't prepare it unless you spend money. And that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
All the assistants are gone, we got rid of all of it. Every time I turn around, every budget session, we're getting rid of this assistant, that assistant. And those are the people you're trying to breed to take the place when Mike wants to go fishing. Okay, those are the people that have, usually will step up to the plate. And we always try to hire from within. It's been that's been the way we've been doing business here for decades and decades. And it's worked well and it's served the county well. But when you have so many people at that pinnacle, and that age, all institutions go through it. But we're gonna be particularly hit because we had such a stable.
Well,
Workforce.
frankly, Diane's hanging on. I mean,
Yeah, she's still young, look at her. Yeah.
I tell Ray when he leaves, I leave.
Yeah, yeah.
So, anyway, that's, you know, a really good point.
Well, it's throughout the state. I mean,
Yeah,
we're gonna be increasing more and more people coming into the state.
Yeah.
So, you know, that they're gonna require services at some point.
Yeah.
From you especially, maybe.
Unfortunately.
Well, I've noticed over the years with, a couple of departments at the state, whether it's Health and Human Services or the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
It used to be, you know, you worked with people at the state, you know, for years.
And you knew, right?
You knew them, they got to know you, and you knew how to contact, who to contact. Now it changes all the time. Every quarter, you're dealing with somebody different. And they just don't have enough people. It's,
Right.
since COVID, the change at the state has been incredible. We receive our federal money quicker than we receive our state money.
Interesting. Look at and then look at the $1.4 million that we got year, you know, in 2024, 2023. It took us a year to get that money.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, in other words, it was approved by governor and council, and it took us a year to get the money.
Well, you gotta have somebody that's willing to cut the check.
Or that knows,
You know, that
You know.
knows what the hell they're doing. And all those people are gone. They're just going. It's just a, I
Well,
don't know.
we still haven't had a desk review for our Medicaid cost report
Yeah,
from
what?
March. We're gonna be getting ready to get
so
another
we
one
file
out the
our, we
door.
file our cost report December 30, well, with numbers closing December 31st. Then we have to submit audited numbers, so the audit has to come in and do they don't do a complete audit, they do.
They tackle the nursing home first.
You know,
basically,
so we have to have that by March 31st to the state.
yeah. And then it sits on somebody's.
Then it sits on
desk.
somebody's desk for a year.
Yeah.
You know, before what we'll get is sometimes once every some number of years, they'll come and actually audit.
Yeah,
Most of the time it's a desk audit, but it's a year before. So when they're setting our nursing home rate,
Rates, right.
it's on a cost report.
Yeah.
That's
it's gonna be
2 years old.
yeah.
And of course that hurts because, you know,
Doesn't
you
adjust
look
for
at
some-
what's happened in the last 2
And
years.
it's not adjusted for inflation, so.
Well, it is, but not adequately.
Right,
So anyway,
yeah, anyway. So anyway, that's.
sorry, that's a
Mike-
long
Mike-
answer to your, easy
Have a happy holiday, Mike.
Same to you,
Yeah,
everybody else.
okay.
Good luck with everything, Mike, but
Yeah,
you'll
good
be
luck with
back.
your retirement.
My wife's already got a list for me.
It
for
was
January.
it was really nice to see her.
Yeah, she enjoyed seeing
Yeah,
me.
I hadn't seen her, I mean,
Well, that was
this was a
nice.
long, absolutely,
From the hometown.
from the hometown.
grab that seat
Take
and I'll
care.
get another chair.
Oh, I'll stand up.
Oh, I can move down. I can move down then.
No, you don't need to, we're okay. We got it.
I can still, there's an empty seat right here.
So what we're looking at is a combination budget of infection control and staff education, which includes hiring and retention and training. So who wants to talk first?
I'm sorry.
Oh,
You're on.
Okay. My name is Sherry and, I've been here for almost 11 years. And, I started off as a supervisor and now I do staff education and recruitment. Absolutely love what I do. I get to, keep an eye on what all the other facilities are doing and, so what I do is I'm in charge of making sure that everybody is up to date with all of their mandatory required certifications. And then the recruitment part is always awesome too. Um, doing the LNA classes is wonderful. It really helps us beef up our staff to resident ratio, which of course we love. And I feel like my budget is pretty much right where it needs to be. I don't feel like there's anything else. All I really ask is that I have the opportunity to continue to do the LNA classes and bring people from the outside in that have always wanted to do this.
Well, that definitely has to continue because.
Thank you.
That's the foundation of the entire.
Absolutely. And there's such the last time that, we didn't do it for a bit.
Right, we heard, you've been referring to the result of that.
Yeah, so we didn't do it for a little bit, and then when I got the go-ahead that it was okay to do it again, I had so many applicants, the people that are in the community, and it's so important because the other facilities that offer it, sometimes they'll tell them they're gonna do the class, and then they have them keep working as a
Yeah.
patient care assistant,
Patient
and they
care
don't give them the class.
Right,
And there's only one game in town with that, it's LNA Health Career, so we partner with them. And, we get a discounted rate because I'm the one that's doing the teaching in the evenings with them.
Hmm.
And we had so many people that told me that the other facilities are 7 months out if they even get a class.
well, not only that, I mean, it helps the pool
Definitely.
for workers, but not only our facility, but.
Great for all of Strafford County,
For
yeah.
all Strafford County, for the other nursing homes, it helps the pool, and it helps the private sector with their problems. So, yeah, that definitely has to, we have to. I mean, some of that was, COVID affected, I mean, we just had there's just so many things.
So many.
Well, we had so many people leave leave the system.
Leave the system, right,
As they were, had their 20, 25, 30 years in,
right.
which were our core aides. But frankly, COVID scared them.
Yeah.
When COVID initially came out, people were
Yeah.
dying.
Yeah.
And they were afraid.
Yeah,
And a lot of them retired.
And we had Cuomo on the front in the news every night, Governor Cuomo, putting people back in nursing homes, and they were dying, and the whole system was just in shock. I mean, not only, nationwide. We weren't immune to that, to put it mildly, not to use a disease term, but we weren't immune to it.
So whenever, and you can go into this, Sherilyn, better than me, but whenever, according to CMS regulations, we as a facility are forced to provide adequate educational opportunities for our staff to renew their licenses. So we have to provide, educational opportunities in an adequate number of hours for our staff to be able to renew their licenses. So Sherry's also responsible. We do use a computer system that does allow us to for computer education. That's certainly a very efficient way to do it. Can be, that way you don't have to have a whole group of people at, one time. And it's quite effective. In fact, House of Correction uses a similar system.
A lot of facilities do, and that's really nice when other people are coming from other places as well, that they're already familiar with the system. And it also keeps track of all of their CEUs, their continuing education credits for them. So, and it gives them 3,000 different modules to choose from for their continuing education besides what's required of us. And with a click of a button, they can just pull up their whole transcript and give it to the state if they ask.
So it's a little different with nurses and with nurses' aides. You submit your application for renewal of license, pretty much on the honor system. And then they pick a certain number of people to audit. So if you're audited, you have to produce the documents, but they don't make everybody submit the documents. Unlike myself as an example, I have to submit my documents with my license renewal. I don't get to, just say I did it. I have to
Yeah.
do it, so. And submit the documents, with my license renewal. Mine's a little different. It's, because I've been a licensed administrator for more than 15 years and have that many consecutive years in one facility, I only need 30 CEUs over 2 years to, and I just got my renewal. Happy to say. So, but Sherry Lynn is also responsible for making sure that those courses are offered and kind of reminding and encouraging people to make sure they have the credit hours they need for renewal. And poor Chris probably has the worst job in the facility.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually called Chris the bug doctor.
Yeah.
So I started here in 2002 as an LNA, and I've worked my way up to current position. I'm a registered nurse. My position is it's had different names, Director of Infection Control, Infection Preventionist. But I wear a lot of different hats, with just about anything related to infection control. I'm joined with Sherry because this used to be several years ago with one job, infection control and education. I'm still, I do a lot in education as well as far as educating staffs on best practices regarding infection control and vaccines and things of that nature.
Security door.
Yeah, and I started this job in 2018. Needless to say, I wasn't planning on walking face first into a global pandemic when I took it, but that came with the job. Also when I started the job, we had like one shot we really had to manage, which was the annual flu shot. There was a pneumonia shot for the residents as well, that most of them already had when they came into the facility. And every year it's like there's been more and more vaccines added as well, either recommended or required. So that's become a huge part of the program itself. There's a lot of vaccines that are required, per CMS to be offered to the residents, but there's also other ones that have been recommended since, like Shingrix and RSV. Those are newer additions as well. They like to see them have, so a lot of juggling on that end. I also handle the staff vaccinations that we have here. I do some work here, with the jail and the courthouse as well. Did vaccine clinic here last month. So I did a couple over at the jail. I help the jail with some of their other matters as well, whenever I can, like purchasing and stuff. I've got some contracts and stuff, because they need like testing kits and stuff for COVID as well among their clientele there. They have outbreaks too, so I'm able to get them some deals based on some of the contacts I have. But there's all kinds of things related to CMS and CDC. I have to keep up with the constant changes with the CDC. I have to track all the infections, report the infections. It's the concept called antibiotic stewardship as well, which means we're using antibiotics responsibly. I'm supposed to keep track of that and keep in touch with the doctors. I keep in touch with both the doctors in-house, and I try to also reach out to doctors out of house, like the hospitals and stuff sometimes too, when I have concerns about overuse of antibiotics, because that's an emerging problem too, is we get, super bugs coming, being created, however they are. One way they're essentially created is overuse of antibiotics, because the more antibiotics we use, the more resistant bugs become to the antibiotics we use to treat them. So that's part of it as well. As I said, staff education, also staff surveillance. I'm kind of trying to keep an eye on the units to make sure that they're doing the staff are doing all the things they're supposed to do. When the state isn't here, especially because when the state comes in the building, they've got to know what they're supposed to be doing. They should be doing everything as best they can, 24/7, but especially when the survey window, the surveyors will give us a deficiency if they're not doing things they're supposed to be doing, like, washing their hands when they're supposed to be doing that. There's all kinds of little things that they'll pick at too, like linen handling, and there's just,
Yes.
Really endless things that they can look at, but,
And the newest regulations, Chris, regarding enhanced barrier protection.
oh yeah, that's a brand new thing now. That just came out in April, CMS, essentially a mandate. They want us wearing gowns a lot more frequently than, before with, certain residents, which is, these certain residents are a pretty significant portion of our overall population. Anybody who's got like an indwelling device, like a Foley catheter or feeding tube, anybody who's got a chronic wound, or anybody who's got certain types of super bugs or a history of super bug. There's only one person in this facility who's got any history of that. But regarding super bug history, so to speak. But we've got a lot of people who have indwelling devices or wounds, so staff are now that they should be putting on a gown whenever they do any type of significant contact with that person or their environment. So that's been a lot of training, a lot of teaching. The rules change every year too. Who knows what's going to happen now with the change in federal government? Maybe even all the vaccine mandates maybe like become lesson. Who knows? But it's been changing a lot every year. COVID, of course, was the ultimate curveball.
Even if they wanted to do that, Chris, it would probably take them a year to write the
Right.
part.
Right. It's not gonna
So,
happen
you know,
overnight.
it's gonna, yeah.
Of course, we've got a very large facility too. It's one of the largest in the state, one of the largest nursing homes. The residents, it's a very communal setting, so it's just a type of place where, germs spread pretty easily.
Right.
With people who are immunocompromised as well. And COVID has been the ultimate, curveball. Whenever we get a significant outbreak over there, it essentially sabotages everything else that I'm working on because I have to focus entirely on that. It's not what it was in 2020 when it was killing people, thankfully, but it's still so contagious, especially in this type of environment. So there's.
Well, I don't know how you, I don't know how you have such a difficult job, because I don't know how you control the spread of anything that's contagious in the building when 4 people are using the same toilet.
Correct, yeah.
42 people using the same tub room. I mean, I don't care how many times you clean the damn thing, it's just, there's not enough bleach, there's not enough disinfectant. I mean, it's just, it's a challenging job for both of you, and, I wanna let you know, the commissioners recognize that, and you did such a great job during that whole mess. It wasn't a good time, but you guys did a fabulous job, and Chris, you've always done a great job, both of you have actually.
Thank you.
Keep that LNA job stuff, we gotta keep that going on that track, so we can hire staff, and Chris, I know you've had some challenging times over there with the COVID strains and the super bug, that's why I call you the bug doctor. You know your stuff.
I've watched poor Chris go gray over the last couple
Oh, I
of
know.
years.
I know. But it's all about trying to keep people healthy, and it's the physical environment doesn't lend itself well to have that occur. And anybody who understands that knows that, understands the facility, understands. It was never designed to deal with the people that we're dealing with now. It just wasn't. But we do the best we can with what we have. I mean, I don't have any other questions regarding your budget. I think you guys do.
And I do also need to recognize, Mr. Chairman, that our 5-star rating reflects significantly on these 2 people.
Right, absolutely.
So I mean, the 5-star rating, as you know, has nothing to do with the physical plant.
Right.
It has everything to do with the care that's provided, and so we're operating off of a difficult physical plant to keep things like infections and to keep, and we're, because of the layout, we actually have extra staffing to make up for, the problems that we have, so, it's a good, it's a real tribute to them. I assure you, the second the state walks in fact, during COVID and shortly thereafter, they were doing inspections just based on, and just doing infection inspections.
the federal inspection.
Yeah, we had a federal inspection, just to look at our infection control procedures. So,
Any of my colleagues have any questions? Oh. Well, happy holidays to you
Thank
both.
you. Thank you, guys.
Keep up your good work.
Thanks for what you do for the
Yeah.
residents. We appreciate that.
Yeah. All right.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Maybe some of Diane's easy stuff, or we got.
Well, I don't know if it's easy, but.
Well, there's nothing we can do about it, so.
There you go.
I mean. it's something-
Are you saying it is what it is?
It is what it is.
It is what
That's
it
right.
is.
I will tell you that, in the answer to one of your questions, I'm not sure how much longer Chris, can continue to hang on to do what he's doing, so I am training a replacement. Because it's not like you can say,
Yeah.
okay, you're an RN, you know.
Yeah, you're infection control.
You're infection control. You have to be a certified infection control preventionalist. That's a federal requirement.
Yeah.
So I do have another nurse that she's ready to take the exam. Because I'm not sure, Chris has kind of warned me that he just needs to live a normal life.
Yeah.
And he hasn't lived a normal life
No,
in
he
5
hasn't.
years.
Well, the last 5 years, he's been under
Yeah.
stress, and just,
Well, it's also 24/7. I mean, he's getting,
right,
because anytime a new case is detected, he gets a call
Oh.
and puts things in place, and it could be 3 a.m, 4 a.m, all weekend long. I mean, I had to defer the calls I took the calls so he could go to his brother's wedding. I mean, you know,
I know. It's just,
I mean, and that's, I don't know if that's just humanly fair to anybody.
yeah, he's just been,
Fortunately, he trained me enough to do the initial stuff, and put it in place until he returned.
Yeah.
So I just took the call so he could go to his brother's wedding. In fact, he was real happy to be able to do that.
I just can't believe that court, the guy went through, I mean, this.
He's so smart.
He is.
He's an absolute genius.
Yep.
He's an absolute genius. And the
There's a
stuff
hole, there's one of the holes we're gonna have.
yeah, that's
I know
all.
you're training somebody, but he's.
Well, yeah, but I can't, I mean, I can train somebody and get her the credentials, it happens to be her in this case,
Right,
to get her the credentials, but, we will be relying, just like Rockingham relied on us when they didn't have an infection preventionalist. We'll rely on Rockingham, to help us, during the
Right.
initial transition.
yeah.
It's their turn. I spent 150 vacation hours there this
Yeah.
summer, so they can help us now for a while.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start?
Well, whichever you, I'll leave it up
What-
to you.
which- What are we?
Whatever
doing
you want,
today?
Diane.
Well, we have.
Wanna go do the bonded debt one, that one's easy.
Debt service? Yeah, because that is what it is.
Here's one of these.
We can do debt service and the bond schedule.
The total indebtedness breakdown of bonded debt.
Yes, so actually our budget for debt service is going to go down in 2025, so that's the good news. Just as we've been, we're retiring debt, we haven't issued any new debt as of now, but our plan is to issue some bonds at the beginning of 2025. And the budget also, so we can start from the top. Interest on TAN issues, we issue 2 sets of TANs, our tax anticipation notes. Do I go into the whole thing with why we borrow so
Yeah.
much money at the beginning of the year?
Okay.
Because it's
Yeah, we operate, we start the year broke in terms of cash. We borrow cash until we collect taxes from the cities and towns in December. So we borrow, so money plus revenue that comes in meets the budget. And then we borrow again in June, because the federal law only allows us to borrow what we're going to use in any 6-month period. So the executive committee authorized our first round of borrowing, which we're in the process of doing, and acquiring the funds at the beginning of January. So this number is our best estimate as to what those TAN borrowings are going to cost us, at the beginning of January. So that number might need to adjust. Fortunately, we have, even though it's a public bid, anybody can bid on it. Northway Bank has been, a real successful partner with us and has come up with interest rates that are significantly lower than, any of the other people who have bid. So we hope that that relationship continues.
Northway Bank is our bank for all of our county accounts. And we've been with them since 2009, and that relationship has been just critical to us. Because, I mean, they beat out, for example, yesterday, when the RFPs went out for our tax anticipation notes. And historically, when they bid, they come in at least
a point.
between a point, at least 50 basis points to 75 basis points from, lower than everybody else. That saves us so much money every year. And so, and the amount of money that we requested $24 million to get us through the first half of the year. Our taxes are the taxes that we collect in December are about half the revenue that we receive. So we don't receive half of our revenue until December. So that's why we're so cash poor at the beginning of the year. The other thing is we get a proportionate share payment, which is a significant amount of money. We don't get that until June. And then our largest billings, which is our Medicaid billing, at the nursing home, that is one of the areas I was talking about. It takes a long time to get our payments.
60 days and so we bill at the end of the month and then it's at least another 30 or 45 days before we're paid. But the other part of it is when somebody comes into the nursing home, it could take as much as 6 months to get them on Medicaid. Yes, we're back paid, in most cases, but
We're waiting for the revenue.
but we're paying the expense of caring for them without having the revenue without the revenue coming in.
The revenue for the jail is a little better, that we wait roughly 30 days and we get paid for.
So the bills, we try and get the bills out. As an example, November's bill went out yesterday, for, immigration and for the US Marshals, which is, our biggest sources of
Yeah.
revenue. So we try and get the bills out within 3 days of the close of the month, but then it takes them.
We'll probably get our payments by the end of the month.
They fight though, immigration and the US Marshals frequently fight about, no, you're supposed to pay for that guy, no,
Right.
you're supposed to pay for this guy, no, you're supposed to pay for that guy.
Settlement law.
Yeah, and no, this person transferred from my custody to your custody,
Yeah.
so we're kind of stuck in the middle of that fight. And interestingly enough, each entity has to have a perfect bill. So if you send them a bill and there's one person on it that should be on somebody else's bill,
I'll reject it.
they reject the bill and we have to redo it. And, because they can't just simply go in and cross it off. Nope, they have to have a perfect bill, both entities. So, the billing takes a little while. Fortunately, our partners,
Job for you, Bob. You can go in and do that.
our partners on the other end of, ICE and the marshals are pretty quick to review the bills. So, because they review them quickly,
Right.
and we can take one day and make the changes and get them back to them, we usually get paid within 30 days. So that's a pretty good situation, and that's just an automatic transfer into our bank account. So that works out.
So that kind of tells you why we need to borrow money right from the get-go, each year. And we're, like Ray said, we're in the process right now of securing $24 million in tax anticipation notes. So we have that money in place January 3rd, so we can meet our payroll and pay our bills and whatnot. So on this sheet here, I think it's attached to debt service. It goes through, our various types of debt service. So we have our interest cost on our TAN, so we borrow twice a year. And the calculation, our first round, we know we're already approved for, the executive committee approved the $24 million. Our bond counsel, I have to provide a cash flow. Our bond counsel has approved that cash flow for, the borrowing of $24 million. I put in a rate of 3.2%, and we'll be paying that off 360 days. So that gets paid off on, December 30th of 2025. The 3.2%, I'll be able to modify that because we get our bids, our bids come in for that TAN on the 18th. So that's an estimate of where I think it will be, but we'll know before,
On the 18th.
before you approve the budget. Yeah. And so for the second half of the year, we'll have to borrow. This is all an estimate because I don't know the amount to be raised by taxes yet until the budget is complete. But I'm estimating, another 20 million at that rate for that period of time. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that part of it.
Well, the only comment I have is that we do a calendar year versus fiscal year, and that's costing us quite a bit of money.
Yeah, I mean, there is a time, and as I've said before, if the delegation and the commissioners want to work cooperatively, the problem is you're having a 50% increase in taxes. If you, for 1 year.
Right.
In other words, if you wanted to do an 18-month budget, yes, it would lessen the need to borrow. The other thing is we could collect twice in taxes.
Right, from the cities and towns.
From the cities and towns, because, they collect twice.
Right.
I live in Somersworth, I pay twice. The problem is that particularly the smaller communities would have to borrow money to pay us if we did it twice. So
they have the use of the money. They're earning interest on it through their cash flow. Especially the small towns, okay? If you force them to, like Ray said, if you force them to pay us
twice,
you
might have, of our 13 communities, you might have 7 or 8 that have to do their own tax anticipation
they have to do
notes.
their own TAN to pay us,
And there is
especially the small towns.
And
Plus-
they
plus
incur
the-
the cost of tax collection too,
Right.
which is not an inexpensive cost.
Plus, the other part of it is that they're borrowing, in some cases, comparatively small amounts of money and are likely to pay much higher interest rates, than the 3.2 that we're doing. The only other way to do that is to begin to build a surplus. But the problem with that is,
The statute says you'd have to maintain that for a specific purpose.
well, you'd have to, the surplus you'd need to,
Like surplus, you'd have to have a
well,
$40 million.
well, you'd have to have at least a 20 or $25 million surplus.
Right.
and that's the taxpayers' money. I mean, that's not our money. I mean, that's, that's, that money we're taking out of the taxpayers' pocket, yes, in probably 10 years or more, that money would come back, but I think it'd be very hard to explain it to the taxpayers why you've got a 50% tax increase. For their county taxes. There's no question about that.
It's very out of office. I mean, you want to follow the sword of Damocles, go ahead, but that you'd have to have a 50% increase. I don't care. There's no way around it. There's no way that's been the case for decades and decades and decades. We've talked ad nauseam. The other thing that I always used to hate when Dover went to their 18-month budget. And we increased taxes and we did that. Of course, the whole city council was wiped out. That's the first thing. Okay. So the second city council that came in after that, they enjoyed the benefit of it, but the benefit was short-lived. It was short-lived because you're taking this money away from your people when the people have the ability to invest that money on their own and earn money on it before we take it. So there's a lot to doing something like that. I know in Dover, like I said, the entire council got wiped out. I think all but one. Everybody else got wiped out when they did it. Because the property tax is a tax that people hate to pay the most.
Yeah.
Okay,
I just got my bill. Not that.
and when it goes up, you jack up the county portion at 50%.
Well, I mean, the county portion's about 8 to 10% of your total tax bill.
Right.
It just depends on what community you live in.
Right.
Like Durham, it's around, Commissioner McGlaris and I just appeared in front of the Durham Town Council. We do it every year, 3 weeks ago, and I did some quick calculations because they had their tax rate. And we're right around 9%. We were less than 10%. So, but I think a piece of that is Durham contributes a lot to their, to the schools. The Oyster River School District is a fairly hefty portion of the Durham tax bill, which makes our percentage smaller because they contribute so much to Oyster River.
The other argument on that was because of our size, we're able to borrow, as Ray said, at a lesser rate. It's cheaper for us. I know that some counties in the country, when they went to do this, I just think it's foolishness, but they did it anyway. They borrowed it over 5 years. So they actually took a tan out.
They did. At Londonderry, when I was in Londonderry, and that's it's 40 years ago.
Yeah.
They got a special permission from the legislature and took a 5-year bond out.
Right, bond out, right.
So, what they did was borrowed the money to go to 18 months and then paid it back, 1/5 over the next 5 years. But everybody still got mad because their taxes went up substantially.
Yeah.
So that's how Londonderry changed to an 18, did an 18-month budget and went to,
Bonded over 5 years.
and they bonded it over 5 years, but you can't. The fiscal requirements in the state statute says you can't bond operating expenses.
Right.
So they needed a special vote of the legislature to allow them to do that.
Right.
And, I mean, that's another option, but it's still, walking in with a 20% tax increase.
Yeah.
Or more.
And every year.
Every year. Well,
Every year.
once you make the 20%, then it
Right.
stays in place.
Right.
So much for the poor elderly that can't afford that increase.
And it's the same old arguments.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
So go ahead, Diane, keep going.
Yeah, and I just noticed something. So the next line, interest on ban, I have 267,000. That was the budget for last year. I carried that forward. The amount is $91,000
Yeah.
on the ban that we just issued in November, and we'll be paying those
So
off.
we're gonna convert that, right?
We're gonna convert those to, we're gonna issue bonds,
Issue bonds.
probably end of January, beginning of February, for, those capital projects. to fund the CIP and for the amount that we spent on the nursing home design. Our fees for financial advisory services and bond counsel fees, yeah, so there's gonna be an additional savings of $176,000 with that adjustment on the ban. Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Well, if the Fed reduces the rate like they're talking about, the second round of TANs, it's next June,
Yeah,
might help us a little.
Well, rates are funny things when it comes to long and short-term borrowing.
yeah.
You know, they're reflected, even though the prime rate might go down, it's
Short term.
it's short and long term. It's, you know, all kinds of,
Yeah, there's all kinds of things.
But we have, yeah, so that's the outline of our short-term borrowing.
Well, after the 18th, we know what we're going to adjust.
Yeah, it'll be some adjustment. Then so that's on short term. On our long-term borrowing, I mean, we don't have much long-term debt at this point, so, the cost has gone down due to the interest savings on the amortization schedule. And in 2025, we're gonna be retiring 2 bonds. Our refunded bonds from way back when, and then also, some general obligation bonds. That was for the, that's a $64,000 principal amount. I'd have to go back and look. It was for capital projects from years ago. So during 2025,
I think what Diane will find when she goes back and looks, it was one of the adjustments we needed to make for jail construction. Remember when we decided, well, we were told one thing regarding the sewer and then we had to upgrade the sewer.
Yeah.
You know, we had to upgrade the sewer from the pump station down.
Down, yeah, the force main.
The force main.
So at the end of 2025, our debt service, we're going to owe, our debt service will be $1.6 million and change.
Plus whatever we add next year.
So our debt limit is,
About 400 million.
yeah, and we're nowhere near our debt limit. So currently we're at 0.9% of what our debt limit. So we have a lot of capacity for what we can borrow. And so we will be doing that when we issue bonds in 2025. So along with the long-term debt, I did include bond issue fees, and that is going to be the cost of our financial advisory services, our bond counsel fees. And Steve Massaroni, our financial advisory, told me that Moody's is going to, and I got the rate schedule from Moody's because these bonds will be rated. It's gonna cost about $28,000 to have our bonds rated.
Yeah.
So we'll have to go through that whole exercise of, we haven't had bonds rated in a long time, so.
It's a painful exercise.
Yeah.
I mean, county, you know, because we're partially an accrual based, partially a cash based operation, it's very difficult for Moody's to understand what we're doing. And frequently, because we're a small customer compared to, you know, like the city of New York or, you know, something like that, they'll put this brand new person in there that's worked for Moody's for like 3 weeks. And that'll be the person that, you know, ends up, we try and help them understand, you know, our financial operation. I mean, there was a number of years ago where, you know, there was this claim that we were like $25 million in the hole. And all of which was just.
Accounting.
It all had to do with the nursing home.
Yeah.
Right, being an enterprise fund.
Yeah. Well, we'll probably only have to travel to Boston and not New York City.
Yeah, at
this
least we
time.
don't have to go to New York City this time.
Remember that cab ride?
I'll never. I'm still like, I still have.
That was a long
my
day.
fingernails are still in the back seat of that cab when you told them how fast you needed to get us to the airport. I'll never forget it. He was driving on the sidewalk. He was driving.
Runway
That's the
roads.
way they normally drive.
Yeah, it was like.
You had, You had to pay him,
Yeah.
nobody would take us back to the airport, cause
Right,
we
I had to
left,
bribe everybody.
we left that morning, flew to New York, and we were coming back that same night.
I'll
and-
never forget it.
Yeah, that was,
Bribe cab drivers. Had to bribe them. They said, you don't understand, it doesn't work this way. We only go so far and that's it, we stop. I said, well, we gotta get over there, because they don't care whether you gotta get over there or not, you ain't gonna get anybody to do it. It doesn't work that way.
yeah,
We made it.
last time, I think the last time we went to Boston, so it
Yeah,
wasn't so
right,
bad, it's
so
just,
bad.
we have a little more control. Yeah, so that's gonna be the cost of our, we're going through that process right now. I'm working with Steve at, our financial advisor right now. We're working on our official statement, so it'll be end of January, February. that
Well,
we'll
we're
be
watching
issuing
the
those
rates too. I mean,
Yeah.
Steve has said that
Right.
historically, there's a dip in rates the end of January, beginning of February. So we timed this for that exact reason.
And also, there was the discussion about the bond bank issuing,
Yeah.
using the bond bank. And if we want to issue bonds for the beginning of the year, we didn't meet the deadline. We didn't get the approval for our ban in time for the application for the municipal bond bank. I actually,
Well, they do them, it's usually like.
Twice a year.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it's in our best interest.
It never was, I mean.
well, we don't, we've done it once
Yeah, I
since
think
I've been here. And that's the bond we're actually going to be retiring next year. We've done it once. The thing is, we don't have any flexibility because where the rates are a little higher right now, if down the road, we'd like to refinance these through the bond bank, they have to initiate the refinancing. We don't have control over that. So we would, we always have the option to refinance if the rates are lower, of course. So but we didn't make the deadline for their,
First round.
and I asked them if we could even put in a late application, because we just want to know where we're at to have as many options as possible. And they wouldn't even take a late application. So I tried, but it's,
The other thing
we'll
about a
go to the
bond bank
market.
is you're paying another middleman,
Right.
because they carve off a piece of
Piece of
this
the
for
action.
themselves.
It really wants a piece of the action.
So I don't know if there are any questions about debt service or budget. Like I said, it'll be adjusted a little bit when I know what the interest rate is for the TANs. And then I've got to adjust the amount for the band interest because I carried that over.
Yeah.
Keep going, Diane.
So that's debt service. So we can do insurance. We can start with the health insurance budget. Let's see.
Wait a minute, I'm just gonna go in the other room and shoot myself
Right.
before we do that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So let me just give you the overview of this. For the last 3 years, our health insurance increase has been under 3%. This year it started at 18 and we got it down to, let's just call it 10.
yeah, or so, yeah.
Yeah, it's right around there.
So we're still around like 1.2 million.
$1.2 million increase,
Yeah.
yeah. And some of that, I mean, yeah, our health insurance, as Ray said, this is probably, this is the year, because of COVID over the last few years, we saw our premiums either get reduced or just slight increases. Because a lot of people weren't having procedures and whatnot. Well, now it's time to make up for all of that, and that's why we're
People
seeing
were avoiding hospitals.
that increase, yeah,
They didn't wanna go.
yeah. And we're also seeing a shift in our census too, because as people are are retiring, and they're retiring with single or two-person plans. The people that are coming on board have family plans, and those are more expensive. So we're seeing a shift in our census as well, so that's driving it up a little. But the other thing that we've done, because of the Medicare regulations and whatnot, is we've moved probably at this point 18 individuals who are age 65 plus from our employee insurance to Medicare Advantage plan, which is less expensive for the
myself and
county.
my wife, it saves the county $12,000 a year.
Yeah. Yeah, so we moved about 18 people who qualify, are Medicare eligible to do that. And as people are becoming, I think we've been doing like a couple of people a month as they're
As they're aging,
aging.
we're moving people off of our
Yeah,
coverage, and it's so much cheaper for the county.
but but the one thing that did happen with our Medicare Advantage plan, that got hit. The premiums with that got hit. We saw a 55% increase in the premiums for our Medicare Advantage
Although
plan.
you're talking about a relatively small amount of money, you know, I mean,
But we have a lot of people, a lot of those people are retired and not working for the county. So when somebody no longer works for the county, they have to pay for their own health insurance. So we're not doing the revenue today. We're gonna see an increase on the revenue side too, to offset a little bit of this.
and we're still in negotiations with the employees, with all the unions, to determine a potential increase in contribution on their part to offset, some of this. So we're working on that as we speak.
Now, let me ask this, stipends for people that don't take the insurance.
We offer that.
What do you say? I'm looking for it.
And that comes in as a revenue, not as an expense.
Okay.
So when we
Well, the
get to
expense is in a different line item. It's not, it's within the budget. It's called waiver. It's
it's called waiver.
All right.
Yeah,
And for a full-time person, they're reimbursed $60
a week, which
It's a
saves,
lot less money.
it's a lot less money, but it saves.
But they have to show us proof that they have other insurance. 'Cause we don't-
According to our legal counsel, if somebody doesn't have insurance and we allow them to take the waiver, then there is cases all over the country where if for some reason they unexplainably get sick, they go back after the entity, particularly the government, and they've won significant lawsuits against the government for not providing them the insurance, even though they refused it.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it's the Affordable Care Act really dictates.
The Affordable Care Act is what kills us in that respect.
Yeah.
It forces us to ensure that they have insurance through another entity. And then when they do, we're happy to give them the $60. Because otherwise, if we didn't do that, they would just say, oh, well, give me the insurance. But this way we pay them. It discourages them from, they'd rather have the extra $60, obviously, if they're insured in another way. And the Affordable Care Act, where it allows people to be covered by their parents till they're 26, we can eliminate those people, although interestingly enough, in some ways that hurts us, but we gain more than we lose. It hurts us because those are the people that when the insurance company does the demographics, are the less.
They're not in our pool. They're not in our.
Well, they're less, they're less. So the people that we do insure obviously are older. So that, raises the pool, but not as much as we save by not insuring the 26-year-olds or less, which is a lot of our nurses' aides at the nursing home. Not so much the nurses, because by the time they get out of nursing school, they're, pushing, they're not far from 26. And usually the nurses that we hire are nurses that have already gone through what they consider the excitement of the ER and other places. So most of our nurses are older and more experienced, which is good for us, but you know,
Caution.
yeah.
And also part of the health insurance budget line is our life and disability insurance that we offer to our employees, and there was no increase in that. So they have, kept our premiums, the same.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if there's any questions about health insurance.
I think it's important to mention that we did, try to self-insure.
Well, we shopped our insurance through, there's not many providers in New Hampshire. We shopped through 3 providers, and we also took a hard look at self-insurance. I've gone through self-insurance before, Diane and I both have, there's a time when, but
There wasn't.
it's in our long-term bad interest
Right.
to self-insure.
There's a lot of risk.
There's a lot of risk.
Simply because the workforce is older, so you take on more, you take it.
Well, all it takes is 1 or 2.
Yeah.
2 or 3. Yeah, and.
And when you start seeing those claims come in and you're paying them every month, I think it was every week at that
We were
point.
paying every week. It can really kill you.
I call Ray on Thursday when we would get the report and, are you sitting down, Ray? Because, yeah, it can be a
Well,
run.
that's the point is we looked at it.
Yeah.
It's just not, the risk is just for
The other thing is it can really wreck your cash flow too.
right.
Because yes, you can buy co-insurance that'll pay you back, but it's like 2 or 3 months before they
Yeah.
pay you back. And all of a sudden you've paid out $1 million in claims. Yes, you're gonna get maybe 600,000 or 700,000 of it back, but that's 3 months down the road. So it really wrecks your,
It's very hard.
it's almost impossible to predict your cash flow.
Yeah, it's very challenging to manage. Yeah.
So it's almost 30 grand now for a 2-person plan, right? 29,000 something.
I have that right here.
And it's not nearly as rich as the state plan.
$40,000
Yeah,
It's not nearly as rich as the
for a
state.
family plan.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not nearly as rich as the state plan.
Yeah.
The state plan is huge, much more benefit oriented than what the county offers.
A single plan is over $14,000. Yeah.
But the state, our benefits are not as good as the state benefits. Let's just leave it that way.
Yeah.
Is a policy a pretty good policy?
It's a very-
$1,000 deductible,
And we do an HRA, and so we
pay the first $250 of the $1,000 deductible. Now that's 1,000 per person, so if it's a family, it's 3,000 minus $750. So you could, your out of pocket is, and if you think about it, our average wage, isn't much over $20 an hour. And maybe $21 or $22 an hour for an average wage. And based on that.
it's a good plan.
It's a good
Yeah.
plan, but if as long as if you're healthy, it's a great plan.
Right.
But cause the county's charging you about 20% of that premium cost comes back to us as a revenue. But if you're sick and you have to start hitting the deductibles.
I had it for years, I know.
Yeah, but you're single, so, and now you're not anywhere, you're on
Right,
Medicare.
I'm on Medicare now.
So it doesn't matter, but, if you've got a sick family,
No,
for some of our families to come up with $2,500 is when our employees are making $20 an hour, that's a pretty tough situation to be in.
So Diane, I'm looking, at those rates. It's about 15,000, 30, 40, except on the last page where Riverside.
Yes,
It's
so,
1836 and 48.
well, years ago, and I'm pretty sure you were here, Bob, we
He was.
had the different groups rated separately
Right.
based on who was in that group. So we had non-union, we had the jail union, we had the nursing union. So we had three different groups that were rated separately. And the nursing home union, that membership there, they were rated a lot
So
higher.
that's based on claims.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
based on claims.
And that was an effort at that point to let
It-
people know that,
Well,
you know, if they take,
It was a twofold effort.
yeah,
The first effort was, to encourage people, and let me give you an example. I had to have my hip replaced, the year and a half ago. Prior to that, I needed an MRI. So I had the opportunity to call around for that
Right.
MRI. And,
Yeah.
I found a place that was $2,000 cheaper than if I went to the hospital. So, and my surgeon said, fine, I don't care where the MRI comes from. You know, it doesn't matter to me, as long as they can electronically ship it to me, that's all I care about. So I went to that place and it saved the county's insurance company $2,000. So we tried to show the employees through union negotiations, what could be saved by them by simply making a phone call. That was situation number one. Situation number two is that we don't uniformly charge employees, if the insurance costs more, their contribution is more. So we split the groups up based on the unions that we have. The only one that we didn't do was the sheriff's department, only because it's relatively small. So we included them with the non-union, but the nursing home union and the jail union operate separately. The sheriff's department is lumped in with the non-union.
yeah, and Bob, to your point, I mean, you can see that the nursing home union, their premiums are higher. The jail actually performed better. The membership in the jail union performed better than the non-union and the nursing home. So they were rated
Right.
with lower premiums.
So at the nursing home, we have 55 non-union people there. Who would those be?
Management.
Well, non-union, you know, they're not
Right.
necessarily,
That would be your department heads, your supervisors.
it would be
Charge.
anybody that we can, you know, I mean, I actually like having a union, you know, because it just keeps everything fair and equal. But it's all of your, it's a certain, most of them are nurses or nursing supervisors, like I said, your department heads,
Your clerical staff.
your clerical staff, are your non-union people.
Well, the non-union's rated much less, so it's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they've always been, that group has always
Yeah,
been in
yeah.
that same group, yeah.
Well, they've always been rated less, too. They've always had utilization of.
Yeah.
You know, and let me, and this is purely anecdotal, okay? I don't have statistics to prove this to you. But let me tell you this, when most of the union people are paid less, okay? I mean, they're not department heads, they're not. So when they go to the hospital for something, the hospital has its own metrics of what you need to make on your copay. In other words, if you say you ran up your $2,500 and you don't necessarily have to pay it all. So it's a disincentive for these lower paid employees to be economical with the use of their healthcare because a lot of times it's forgiven by the hospital, you know, as part of their licensure. So, like, so if I needed, to go somewhere, and my doctor was unavailable, I would go to one of the clinics. I would not go to the ER. Okay, but a lot of these people will say, well, I'll just go to the ER, it doesn't matter, because I'm never gonna pay for it anyway, because I make such a small amount of money that it's gonna be forgiven by the hospital. So it's a disincentive, you know, and that's why we try and educate these people, about how ultimately it impacts their employment and what we can afford to pay. You know, by wise use of, you know, you can't walk into the ER without a $6,000 bill. I mean, cause they're gonna do every test, every single thing that is possible. Where you can go to a walk-in clinic and maybe incur a bill of $200 or $300. You know, now they might at the walk-in clinic send you to the ER. I mean, that, I've seen that happen before. But when, you know, I had a cut that needed stitches. I just, you know, I could have gone to the ER for that, and then they would have x-rayed my hand, they would have, you know, but instead I went, got stitches, and it was, you know, next to nothing. So in comparison, and we try every year to educate our employees about using their health insurance, and there is choices. And that doesn't affect the quality of care. And that we try and educate our people in that way all the time.
That's exactly what we just did with my youngest son. Instead of going to the ER, we went to convenient MD. And the biggest savings for us was the time. Within 45 minutes, we were in and out. And
The emergency room, it is
the
6
emergency
hours.
room, you're there for 6 hours. And even though it was a wrist issue, they'd want to do an MRI to make sure that he didn't have a brain injury and all that other stuff. So,
And, you know, unfortunately, I'll use my own experience. My wife fell off the ladder and, broke a bunch of ribs. And, now we have Medicare, so it's a non-issue to the county, but the point being that we spent 14 hours in the ER for 3 broken ribs. You know,
Well, usually non-union employees in management traditionally. I don't know if that's how.
That's right.
Cody works there.
yeah, I hate to say, you know, there is some exceptions, so I always just say non-union instead of management. Because there is some exceptions of people who aren't management, who are non-union.
Right.
And in some cases, it's positions that we've. And this gets into another complicated subject, but I'll just be really brief with this. When we file our Medicaid cost report, it's in the county's financial best interest to move as many people into administration as we possibly can, even if they're technically not administration. As an example, our couriers, the two, in this case, it happens to be ladies, the 2 ladies who take our residents out to doctor visits, you know, in the community, you know, they're in management.
Right.
Now, they're really not managers, but we have an ability to get better reimbursement if they're included in management or administration, they call it, on our cost report, than if they were in nursing. So as many people as I can push, and Diane does our cost reports. We're one of the only counties, by the way, that doesn't pay somebody $10,000 to do our financial cost reports. Another thing that would kill us if, you know, Diane was leaving. She does both our Medicare and Medicaid cost report. And for as many people as we can push into administration, we get a better reimbursement rate than if they were in nursing, as an example. So I try and push. So a lot of times the union just leaves those people alone.
And also, just to follow up on, you know, the comment about, you know, the rate for, you know, a single plan and a family plan. because this started last year. I mean, that is the pure premium rate. But if you look at the calculation, when we were offered from Anthem, last year, we were offered $175,000 credit. This year, we were offered a $300,000 credit. So those are the premiums, and if you look at the calculation, you know, you have your calculation of what an HRA cost, because there's a cost, you know, because we're picking up that deductible. But then I had to allocate the appropriate
Right.
$300,000 credit. So that, those amounts there that you're seeing, that's pure premium. But Anthem's been doing other things, you know, to get
To get the
to get the business. But and that's all well and good. We got a $300,000 credit. It offsets the total cost of our health insurance. But the thing is, next year, the problem being is the starting point is those pure premiums. So we have to, it is really coming down. I'm looking at the snow.
I knew it is,
Yeah. So that's where the starting point is going to be next year, that high amount, that credit, it goes away. It
Right.
doesn't factor in, so we need to keep that in mind next year
Yeah,
when
another 300,000.
talking to Jim and all of that, so.
There's just gonna be so many changes coming down the pipe next year. It's not,
Well, we don't know what's gonna happen, you know, with the affordable.
But
care
I'm
plan. We
seeing,
don't
I'm
know what's
really
gonna happen with
understanding
anything.
why they give us that credit, because then it goes away.
Well,
And-
on the other hand, it's
Yeah.
better than.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
We
better
would-
than just having them at, you know, I mean, it's still $300,000.
Next year, we'll ask for a $500,000.
yeah,
Lots of that.
yeah.
So then the next would be property and liability insurance. And so that has increased countywide for, you know, the insurance for the entire county for property liability, and that includes our liability, our auto. The increase is $19,489. And a lot of that has to do with increases in payroll. I think you could speak more to claims.
The bottom line is in the history of Riverside Rest Home, we've had one claim, in my 40 years, which is pretty good for a medical facility. And I have to tell you, I did not agree with the payment, you know, with a settlement of it. So we have a lady at the sink washing her hands, and an aide walks by, who's not from that unit, but is finishing her break, and says to the lady, "Can I help you?" And the lady swears at her, which was very common for this lady. And she walked back to her bed and fell and fractured her hip. And they claim that that was our liability, and I have a problem. So if the aide just walked by and never offered to help, it wouldn't have been a problem. But because she went out of her way, you know, we end up with liability. That's the only claim we've had in my 38 years at Riverside Rest Home. So I'm pretty happy about that. The jail is
I wanna join you too.
the jail is our bigger issue. Not that they've had successful claims against the jail, but inmates are very litigious people. They don't even need lawyers. They just, you know, they become what they call jailhouse lawyers and just file lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. Never successful.
But we still have to go and defend it.
Well, we have to defend it. Fortunately, we pay no deductible.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's one fortunate part of insuring with Primex is we pay no deductible on any of our liability claims.
And then the legal representation we get from them.
Is amazing.
Great.
I mean, their attorneys are fantastic. And their lead attorney is also, I wouldn't call him a personal friend, but, you know, I've known him for 30 years. And so I can call them, 7 or 8 o'clock at night saying, hey, I got this issue, how do you want me to handle this? What do you think? This is what I think, what do you think? And that places us in a good position.
Okay, any other questions regarding insurances from anybody?
I have just a couple of other things with
Yeah.
regards to some of the other, they're not in the insurance line items, but the other benefits, the insurance, like workers' comp, insurance.
How's our rates doing?
Our workers' comp insurance went up $43,000.
In total?
Mm-hmm,
From what?
from,
Yeah, so down.
it was last year, it was $727,000, I'm just rounding, $727,000. This year, it's $771,000. So there's,
So it's about, and I'm just doing this number in my head, it's about 5% of payroll.
Now, do we pay more for, people at the jail versus?
Yes,
Quite a bit more, probably.
yes, we do.
What's that rate?
the rates, okay, well, the rates that I have. The jail is grouped in with, it's considered police, so it would be, your correctional officers as well as your sheriff's deputies. It's $2.20
Per hundred,
per thousand,
per thousand?
yeah. Office employees are 21 cents per
Wow, that's
thousand.
good.
Nursing home is $2.15. They're right about
Yeah.
the same rate as correctional officers.
Wow.
And
that's back injuries,
yeah.
Lifting.
it's lifting.
Janitorial is at $3.06. And then, employees that, that have to drive places are rated a little higher at $3.57.
So, it's,
What the increase has been over the years, have they?
it's gone up and down, because they truly rate you on your, almost like your
Claims.
past year, and continued claims. So the other thing about Primex, who we use, is they're not adverse to fighting claims. So if they feel that, that somebody, people do stupid things.
Absolutely.
They do things like, they claim they're hurt at work and then they go on Facebook and say how they fell down the stairs at their house. That's how stupid some of these people are. And so of course, we're part of our claims that we have with Primex is the fact that they aggressively don't just accept the claim. They're gonna look at it. We don't cheat anybody, but on the other hand, they're pretty aggressive about making sure the claims are legitimate.
Do you guys have many claims?
Every incident that occurs, we call it a claim. Just in case it develops into something, because that's what the labor law requires us to do. But every week comes in on the weekend, and I'll never understand that. Every week I get a claims paid subsidy, claims paid an amount, and right now I think we have 3 people out of 400 employees. And most of them, there's no real long-term claims. Most of them they could be as short as a week or 2, but they're still, counted as a claim.
A lot of times those claims will come up from the jail where somebody, like they have their finger hit on a door, like the door gets swung open and it gets hit. They don't necessarily, they don't lose any time, they don't need any
Have to
physical
go to the
therapy, they don't have to go to the doctor, our medical staff sees them, but we have them report it so that in the event that something happens,
Yep.
it's documented. And also, if we don't do that and it happens at work,
We get a fine.
Yeah.
The labor department fines us.
Yep.
And they're pretty inflexible. I mean,
what you're talking about.
well, they're inflexible too, in the sense that somebody claims an injury they never tell us. And then a month later, it develops into something, and then the labor department's, sending us a fine because we didn't report it, but it wasn't reported to us. And then we have to fight that, which, they're pretty inflexible about those kinds of things.
Dental insurance, we provide dental insurance for, our employees. We pay for that. There's a $26 per year increase on our dental plan. Our employees can insure their dependents, but they have to pay
The whole
for
amount.
the whole amount for their spouse and their children. So that went up. That has been the same for 4 years, so we hadn't seen an increase in dental in 4 years.
It's actually even better than that. When we first went to dental through Anthem,
Mhm.
they gave us a 2% decrease on our health insurance. So remember I told you guys for 3 years, it's gone up to very small amounts. One of the reasons is when we shifted
From
our-
Delta.
from Delta to Anthem, they gave us a 2% decrease on our health insurance as an incentive to change over. People didn't really like it because the plan isn't as well accepted at like Delta is. I mean, Delta's accepted at any dentist. But
And then we are seeing a reduction in our rates for the New Hampshire retirement system effective for July. Yeah, would you believe it? Yeah.
Well, I think you have that.
Yeah, so, yeah, in July, so for group one employees, and that would be anybody who is not a correctional officer or sheriff's deputy. The current rate, we have to pay, the county has to pay 13.53% of the wages. That's going to go down to 12.75% effective July 1st. And it'll be effective for the whole year, but they're on a fiscal year, not a calendar year. For group two, which is our COs and our sheriff's deputies, it's currently 31.28%, and that's going to go down July 1st to 30.95%.
and no one probably can answer this better than you, that a hunk of that money is because the system's in the hole.
The system's in the hole around 7 billion.
And so this isn't actually the retirement rate. This is, a piece of it is the retirement rate, but a hunk of it is to try and make up for the 7 billion that they're in the hole. So what happened, and with all due respect to the legislature, is they continued to add to the benefits without adding to the cost of the premium. And therefore, the retirement system is in the hole. So you'll see on our audit, it shows our share of what they're in the hole. Now, it's not counted against us. In other words, we don't have to pay it. But
Is it being paid by their investments or what?
it's being paid by enhanced premiums.
She just said the premium's going down.
I understand. What I'm saying is it's getting better, but it still leaves half of what we're paying to try and recover that $7 billion. Okay, yeah, it's getting, I mean, that's shrinking, but it's still a large part of our contribution is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but they do look at investments. I think
Right.
they take like the last 3 years and
Yeah.
based on that, they set the rate.
Well, that's the trouble. They anticipated higher, return on investment, and, it didn't come through. And, 2011, when we revamped the system, it was $5.4 billion in debt. And it's bad, it's varies.
It's increased.
It's by quite a bit.
Okay, we're getting down.
1.6, the state used to, pay for some of the premium,
Right,
Now
yeah,
they don't.
right.
Because if you wanna hire more people, go for
At
it.
least.
Or less.
Half of it, yeah.
I mean, we're kinda caught in the county,
Yeah.
but it doesn't, you know, we're fine. I mean, we have to have what we have, so.
It is what it is.
How long does it take to? But in the municipality, if you want more cops.
It depends on whether their investments come through or not. In other words,
Okay.
they project their investments and it depends on how their investments,
Their portfolio.
their portfolio does. You know, the stock market, which I know is a portion of their investment, you know, has done well. So hopefully that will lead
It's a
to,
big bubble.
you know, another decrease in the future.
Well, and they changed the way it was managed. You know, the group, you know, the committee that manages that portion. And before 2010, they were actually sending out $1,000 checks because they figured the people don't need them, which didn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
And I know because my wife is on that plan. And, you know, so what the hell is this for?
Yeah.
You know,
But what they did, they also, for those people who weren't vested as of 2011, they cut back their benefits.
Substantially.
Substantially.
that's true.
People who are now, you know, if you weren't vested as of that time, what is pensionable?
Yeah,
There's a
there's a-
lot less that's
and we-
pensionable.
We tried to retrieve those people,
Chris knows
the
about that.
gappers. The gappers, and it got shot down to 50, there was $50 million that we tried to throw in that pile.
Mhm.
This matter of fact, this last term,
Yeah,
and it got voted down, but yeah, I believe it will come back. I mean,
because currently we have 3 buckets of people. We have those people who, and we don't have many left here at the county
Well-
that were vested prior to 2011. We have those people,
Isn't there some blended folks in there?
yeah, there's a funky
Right.
thing as well.
Chris is a funky thing.
Yeah, I think Chris is in that funky
He's in
category.
that funky category, cause he didn't have.
But there's a lot that's just not pensionable.
At 9 years when that
Mhm.
changed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So you just missed it by a year then.
Yeah,
yeah.
The
I
one
had to-
thing-
I had to work an extra year. Sorry. I didn't mean to-
yeah, the one thing that,
plus there's certain things that were pensionable. In the old days, everything was pensionable.
Right.
And that
Mhm.
enhanced people's retirement. So there's a lot of things that aren't pensionable anymore
Yeah.
that hurts people.
Well,
Well, hurts their retirement.
That chief of police that retired from Dover was.
He was the
that's
killer.
when that all
Sobered.
happened.
That was,
Yep.
that was the killer. Yeah, when
And that-
Fenneman
And that was
got,
paid attention to, and when we
Yeah.
did the system in 2011.
Always comes back.
Yeah, that was it,
yeah,
yeah.
that's very true.
Idiots. Still, the-
He's still the highest paid, he still has the highest pension. in the state.
Does he?
Yeah,
Yeah, well.
it's in the country, isn't it?
it could be
Look at it.
for his rate of pay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's today, gentlemen.
So, yeah, that's all the insurance and benefits and
All
the
right,
good, the bad.
we got a list of upcoming meetings, of course, 2 new commissioners are invited to our annual pizza party, so you got that around.
Where's
Pick
that?
a date at. That's
Right here,
Right where you're sitting.
right where you're sitting.
Right today?
We have a.
No.
Full of pizza. No, at the Christmas party.
Oh.
December
Well, why don't we
18th.
do the 13th, the 19th, we're gonna be here.
18 and 19 will be here, yes.
Yeah, the 18th, well, we'll be.
Let's do, yeah, you can do it to 19.
Do the 19th, Thursday, the 19th. Okay?
So this is primarily thanking the tenants, for their $700,000 or $800,000 rent
Right.
contributions.
Easy.
The court and
Which is
probation.
not enough, right?
Well, it,
It is.
we talked to the director and he said it really simply, have the legislature put more money in my budget, I'm happy to pay it out.
Who's that, DAS?
Yeah, he says,
All right, now.
he was very nice. He said, I can only pay you guys what the legislature puts in my budget. He said, if the legislature puts more money in my budget, I'm happy to pay it out to you. I don't know how to argue that.
Oh, Charlie's pretty,
He was very nice. You know, he was very nice to come on a county call with all the 10 county administrators and the point he makes is a good point. You know, he can't pay what he doesn't have.
Yes.
he's got it, don't you? Don't be fooled.
Well, we're still doing our best to get our best rate.
How do you like it now?
One
Stuff
quick
like
thing,
Do it every day.
one quick thing, Commissioners. Medicare and Medicaid have just issued new regulations. 902 pages.
That'll go away.
So I'm in, well, I think it's gonna take them a little while to go away. So I have to prepare for them because
Those are
due to,
902 new pages, are they?
yeah, yeah.
Well, that's something.
Or new interpretation.
Yeah, yeah.
So
The
what,
outgoing administration loads up the new administration with all a bunch of baloney. It takes them a year to pull half of it back.
so what
Half of it.
I'm doing is I've agreed to read the whole 902 pages.
Ah, geez.
Once a week, I will then brief the departments as to what changes they might or might not need to make. So we have until the end, the first of March to, before these will be implemented. So I'll continue to, read up as much as I can. I'm trying to do like 100 pages a week. And then brief the department heads once a week for the changes. It's absolutely senseless to have every department head read all 902 pages.
Right.
When 3/4 of it doesn't have anything to do with their department.
Right.
So it makes sense that I'm doing it and,
Is Dee gonna be reading them too?
no, I have her doing other stuff, so
So you can do it.
I can, but, because I've been there so long, I know what we're doing now anyway.
Yeah.
And what we're not, so I volunteered to read the 902 pages.
Okay.
Now I'm about 100 pages in.
Hmm.
And we do have a personnel issue to discuss.
Yeah. You got any old or new business?
He
Right,
just
any
sent the
questions or
piece of
comments
paper
from the
last
public?
one. Can you sign off on
No,
it?
you ain't gonna get a
Yeah.
chance.
Okay.
Let's go to non-public
Yeah, he
session.
said that was all.
Discussing personnel
So
and contract negotiations. So it's been moved
No,
second.
we'll pay
Requires a
them
roll
next
call.
week for
Commissioner
that.
Rollo, Commissioner Watson, myself, yes. Okay, the commissioner will retire to non-public session.
Okay.